Hello there, I'm Mrs. Radio. You might remember me, or maybe you've only heard of me. I was the popular one before the iPods of the world took over. Now I'm just doing a little vacationing, some relaxing, but I'm still waiting to get back into your eardrums. I'm cool, even though I'm over 100 years old. Did you know my origins are still in dispute? Some people say James Clerk Maxwell is my inventor. He, after all, predicted that radio waves existed. Others say a guy named Marconi. That's Marconi, not macaroni. I'm not cheesy. Anywho, they say this Marconi fella, he worked with Maxwell's radio waves idea. He improved the wireless technology and started supplying equipment to ships. More on that in just a minute. There's also this fella, John Fleming. He created a vacuum tube. It looked a little like like this. Crazy, huh? Then 3 years later, some American named Lee DeForest patented the Audion tube. Looks like this. It amplified sound better than they had ever done before. Okay, now let's get back to them ships. You see, you've seen that movie Titanic, right? Now listen up, kids, I'm famous. The government had passed this law in 1910 saying any ship that had over 50 passengers had to carry a radio on it. So I was actually involved when they were warning the Titanic about the icebergs. But that big old ship, it wouldn't listen, and when it was going down, the SOS signals transmitted from ship radios. Unfortunately, the wireless operators had all gone home for the evening. The operators on land, though, they got the messages, and this was the first time that people became aware of a distant tragedy while it was happening. So Congress came back after the Titanic with the Radio Act of 1912. Now people transmitting on radio waves had to get a license. 5 years later, and that government took over all of my operations during the First World War. It was about that time that all the companies started fighting over me. AT&T, the telephone people, was trying to secure wireless patents, but Marconi refused to give them up. Light bulb companies, Westinghouse and GE, they tried to get a piece of the action too. GE had created this alternator which improved long-distance wireless, and they were negotiating with Marconi. But he was in Britain, so the Navy stepped in and stopped GE. We were in a world war, people. So Marconi founded an American company, RCA. And now AT&T, GE, and Westinghouse, they could all get a piece of the stock. It was about this time that David Sarnoff, a guy who had heard the Titanic go down and knew what radio could do, had written a memo to RCA suggesting that the best way to use the radio was to bring music into people's households. But nobody listened. Many amateur radio enthusiasts were experimenting, including Frank Conrad, a physicist who worked for, no, not you, yes you, Westinghouse. They got a broadcasting license from the Department of Commerce. The call letters were KDKA, and baby, it was a hit. Even David Sarnoff, whose idea it was in the first place, got into the broadcasting game too. By 1923, there were more than 600 stations and nearly 1 million of me. There was even this thing called the Potted Palm Music. Weird name, I know, but it was called that because it played hotel orchestras in rooms with potted palms and posh decor at tea time. Then I started to play drama shows and political programs, presidential speeches. Oh, those early days, they were a hoot. It was a little awkward later on. It was live, baby, so you couldn't figure out if a crazy KKK member was going to go on the air or some nursery rhymes spewing birth control advocates. You'd think Howard Stern had a show on in 1923. Oh, now where was I? What's next? Oh, yeah, advertising. You know what? I hate playing commercials, so I'm just going to let someone take it from here. Ta-ta for now, baby.